Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
And welcome to another edition of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. I'm your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, your favorite board-certified internist, founder at drpierresblog.com, as well as the host of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, #1 podcast for patient advocacy, helping you empower yourself for better health. This week, I'm bringing you episode 89. This is a personal podcast episode because I'm going to be talking about mentorship and how I had the opportunity this week to continue that process of not closing the door behind you. So some may be asking, like, what does that mean? What does that phrase mean? It was something I kind of adopted when I was a medical student for a few of my mentees and friends of mine who, once I got into medical school, I almost made it my dream, my life's work and effort to make sure I get them also into medical school one way or the other, right? Because I felt that, especially when you get given that opportunity to succeed and, to live your dream, which is for my pre-med students, is to get into medical school, that I saw quite too often that once a person got there, they were so content with themselves getting there that they kind of didn't care if anyone else got there with them, right? And I thought, I'm not going to be that way. So I made sure, the second I stepped foot on campus, I decided to know who was who. I decided to know who the decision makers were, so I can start putting, that my good charm in their ear, and start putting that recommendation out there, like, hey, I think this is the person you want to look at, right? Like, that was a very important, big thing for me, because I knew that getting into the position of medical school, and I knew getting into the position of, finally being able to shed off the term pre-med was something that I probably wouldn't have done if not for someone doing that for me as well. So this week, we're going to be talking about a live webinar that I did for a lot of my medical students, and how I'm using my position now as a program director and director of medical education for an internal medicine residency program to really, flex my muscle and teach what I've learned thus far in a very quote-unquote short period of time in this position. So again, sit back. I think it's going to be a good one, right? I think the main theme is really going to be making sure that as a mentor, which many of us are, we are looking out for mentees who may not even realize they need looking out for, but you got to reach your hand back out and do that for them, right? So like always, if you have not had a chance, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Leave a 5-star review for the podcast. Tell one of your friends about the podcast as well, especially if you know someone who is in the position where they can help build the future line of whatever that field is, whether it be physician, whether it be dentists, whether it be teachers, whether it be lawyers, whether it be police officers, military folks, like whatever that thing that you do now. If you know you have someone who looks up to you and wants to emulate you and do what you're doing, especially if you're doing it well, right? I think probably the most important thing, please be doing it well. But if you're doing it well, please listen to this episode and kind of, think of and hear about the driving force that even me, a person that's in a position that I'm in where I can easily say, you know what, I'm good. I've done all I can. And, now I want to just kind of sit back and think of me, to put myself in someone else's shoe and says, you know what, this is what they need, because I want them to succeed as well. So sit back and get ready for another amazing episode here, Dr. Barry. This episode is brought to you by the Lunch and Learn community store, where we are living out the motto, empower yourself for better health. In the Lunch and Learn community store, you can get your favorite t-shirts, ebooks, as well as other related products by Dr. Barry. Head over to shop.drpierresblog.com and get a chance to get 10% off your first purchase by using the coupon code EMPOWER10. Again, shop.drpierresblog.com. Live out the motto, empower yourself for better health. All right, Lunch Learn listeners. So this week I wanted to talk a little bit about mentorship. I'm going to be doing more of a personal podcast and really no education today, for the most part, right? At least from a medicine side. But I want to really kind of drive home the need, regardless of what position you're in, to always look back and see what you can do for others, especially those who are working and striving to really try to get in the position that you're in to help them succeed. And I had this opportunity this week, depending on when you listen to this, I did my first live webinar on a topic as a program director, which is my day job. As a program director, some of the things I was seeing that was happening over and over and over again with medical students. And honestly, I had gotten so frustrated, even as early as last year, that I wanted to have a webinar type discussion. But I'll be honest, I kind of chickened out, right? I kind of said, you know what, why would they want to hear from me? I'm a first year program director. I'm fresh out of this program director role. Why on earth would they want to, hear me say oh, hey guys, this is what you're doing wrong. So I put it away for a year, and then I kind of figured, hey, you know what, this is my first time doing this program director thing. So, maybe the next year, the next go around will be much better. And, the complaints and the concerns that I had will be for naught because this was just like a bad year. And then we fast forward to the 2018-2019 year. Here I am, second year as a program director, second round of applications I'm reviewing, and I'm still seeing the same mistakes over and over and over again. I'm still seeing medical students doing one thing after another that's really hindering their ability to get at least into our program, right? And if they're having difficulty getting into our program, I know they're having difficulty getting into other programs because the same issues that I found, I know for a fact my colleagues were finding as well. So I set out, I kind of put some initial feelers out there to some of my closer contacts to see, is this something that they may even be interested? And we had great response. And, fast forward, I was able to do a lecture at the hospital on the topic. They loved it as well. So, now I really had no excuses. Right now, I had 2 years under my belt. I had people giving me their vote of support. And so now it's just up to me to kind of take that leap and move forward and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put myself out there to the world and say, hey, I'm Dr. Barry Pierre. I'm a program director. I'm a director of medical education. And I would love to talk to you about how to have a successful ERAS season, right? That was my title of my webinar. And the feedback was absolutely amazing, right? It was almost surprising to me, right? Because I didn't realize how many people were having issues and concerns. And I thought they did, right? I thought that there would be some people who were yeah, no, this is something I need. But the amount of positive feedback and the amount of inbox messages and Facebook messages and all of these different messages I was getting, essentially for people thanking me, saying, hey, I was stuck in my position that I was in, but a webinar like this is exactly what I need. So we fast forward, we do our registration was last week. Then we fast forward and we do the webinar, and the webinar went absolutely amazing. The webinar was about an hour long, and I ended up taking about an hour long worth of questions, just rough give or take, right? And honestly, I probably could have talked for 20 minutes more, but it was just so interesting to see, first of all of the different schools that were represented on the webinar. There were schools in Georgia, Alabama. There was Caribbean schools that were represented as well, right? So we were kind of almost, I guess, quote unquote, international with the voter support. And, they loved it. They loved, they asked questions. I was thankfully able to answer the questions that they asked. And, I was able to kind of, put myself out there and say, hey, yeah, if I think I am, one of the experts, right? Again, I don't want to say I'm the expert, but I can, firmly say I'm one of the experts that talks about, doing well during your ERAS season, doing well during your interviews. And I'm able to give that unique point of view because I am a program director, right? I am the person who actually reads your application and who decides whether you come for an interview, who decides whether you get accepted to the residency, right? Like I got a lot of pull per se, right? And I want to, while the God has given me the opportunity, I do want to take advantage of the opportunity to look back, right? And that's kind of where we kind of come into full circle, right? When we talk about this mentorship thing. I've told on the podcast before my story of how I even became a physician, especially an osteopathic physician. I was driving around in Florida State. Shout out to all of my Florida State Lunch and Learn listeners. I was driving around Florida State and I saw this building and it said Florida Osteopathic Medical Association. So here I go, a nosy kid who knew they wanted to go to medical school. I said, I'm going to walk into this building because I don't even know what this organization is, but like something about it is drawing me. And I had the opportunity to meet who I did not know at the time was the actual president of the Florida Osteopathic Medical Association, right? Like I actually got to be able to meet and talk and converse. And, I even went to a few pharmacy dinners on his behalf. Like it was an absolutely beautiful thing I remember when I got accepted to Nova, Southeastern University, like he was one of the first person I shot an email to and say, hey, I'm not sure what happened, but like I'm here and I just want to say thank you, because he was an alumni of the school as well too. So I think back with those opportunities where he could have easily blew me off and say, hey kid, I'm too busy, call me later, and then that could have left like a foul taste in my mouth for all osteopathic physicians, because that's how we usually do it. When we take one down, we take every part of it down, right? So that was that. But he did whatever he did, whatever magic he did. I still don't know to this day. I don't know if he made a phone call. I don't know if he made a recommendation was so strong that they had to take me. I don't know what it was, but I'm definitely glad they took me. Right. I always kind of link it to when just a friend of mine, Dr. Howard. When I tell her, hey, I wanted to not only get through the door, but I wanted to put my foot in the door so other people can get behind me. Like we see, unfortunately, for a lot of my peers, when I ask them like, oh, hey, do you have any mentees? Do you have anyone kind of looking up to you? And a lot of times the question is no. A lot of times they're like, no, I don't have really anybody close who, kind of wants to do what I do. And I think that's a problem, right? And again, I think especially with all of the mentees that are out there who want someone to talk to, and then you have, peers like some of my peers who are like, no, I don't have anyone I talk to. I don't have anyone I want to talk to, right? Now, again, maybe their journey was rosy and, they were able to get in with no problems. They had amazing grades. Like maybe something, has not sparked in them the need to do it, but it's clearly important, right? Like it's clearly been a part of my triumphant journey that I'm still going along. But it's definitely been something that I always hark back in. Like I almost feel a sense of like the desperation when I can't help one of my mentees, right? Because I feel like the feeling is that strong. So I was able to reach out and take a message that I knew in my heart was needed, but I guess my administration and my medical students and my mentees, all of them kind of confirmed like, yeah, this is something that I think a lot more people than us need to know. And the feedback was absolutely beautiful. Like I said, we went almost an hour long, and majority of our people who registered for the webinar was there like the whole time. There wasn't much that that could have been said that I didn't think I needed to add on to it. The questions were great, and I think everyone left there a lot more enlightened than when they first got on the webinar. And I think that was the important thing for me, right? Like I wanted you to leave that webinar thinking like I learned something, and I would not have learned it if I did not come on this webinar. So that was kind of my deed thus far, right? Again, we're not saying this the one time, but that's my deed thus far, as far as looking out for your mentees. We have holidays coming up, and we have all of these different avenues to look out for your mentee and do better for your mentee. That I think as a preceptor, as a mentor, I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm doing my mentee a disservice if I don't, exacerbate all of my skill sets and my tools to make sure you're better. So as far as the webinar, because of the amazing feedback I got, I do plan on hosting them a little bit more frequently. Like I do plan on having a few more, right? Because at first I thought this was going to be a one-off thing. You know what? I'm going to get some people who are going to like it, maybe some people who don't. But because we had so many people really jump out and say, yes, no, this is something I want to do, I definitely want to make sure, we keep that obliged. So I think what we're going to do is likely going to become like a monthly or every other month type deal, where, we kind of highlight it, we promote it, and just say, hey, I'm doing it. Come talk to me. And I think that will just kind of help build the character, not only myself, but those who participate and who are ready to take action. And if you're listening to the episode, the link to the waiting list, because I have a waiting list going on now, is drpierresblog.com/ERASWEBITLIST. That is ERAS Webinar Wait List, all one word. And that's drpierresblog.com/ERAS Webinar Wait List. Please check that out. I think there's going to be so much more opportunity. There's so much more medical students we can reach out to and touch and enlighten and educate to make sure like they're the best person that they can be, and they're successful in all the things they want to do, before they finish medical school. So again, this is going to be a little bit short and sweet one. I just wanted to kind of highlight the accomplishments of the week thus far of yours truly. I wanted to highlight the benefits of being a mentor. I wanted to highlight the benefits of seeing your mentee grow and become confident and learn the stuff that you weren't sure they were going to learn as quickly as they did. So you guys have a blessed and great day. We're going to see you guys next week. If you have not had a chance, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Rate the podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me 5 stars. Let me know how much you love the podcast. If you're one of my medical students who listen to the podcast for the first time, and you haven't left your review yet, please leave your review. I will read them for the podcast episode. So we'll give you a little fame in that regard as well. So you guys have a blessed day. I'm going to see you guys next week.